All right. All right. Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the men who taught me this truth. I would like to say shalom to you, Akim, and you, few Akwath, you men, women, and little ones that believe on the words of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. It's your brother Micah Allah coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, Shai, Lord willing to edify. And the title of this lesson is simply "The Just Will Survive Off Faith." The just will survive off faith. You know, and that's a gift that was given by Yahweh Shai to his elect. And this is what's gonna give the elect the ability to endure these hardships that's said to come to pass. You see, we're currently in Jacob's trouble right now. This is just the beginning of sorrows, as Yahweh Shah spoke about. And things are going to get worse than it already is. You know, you see these Esau's trying to create this tension of civil war. You know, it's going to be a lot of chaos in the streets. It's going to be a lot of, rebelling against Esau's system that he set up, you know. And the elect will have to be protected, you see. But the only way the elect will be protected is through faith in Yahweh Shai. When Esau draws up the food, which is going to be a major test, you know, when he presents that charagma, takes away all these goods, you know, the elect is going to have to trust in Yahweh Shai. You see, to provide, you know, the basic essential things that's needed to survive, man, you know. But let's start off right here. This Hebrews 11 and verse 1. It says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." So this is the true biblical definition of faith. It means to basically believe in something that you don't see, you know, and that's going to be well needed in the time of this famine that we're currently in. Once it intensifies to its peak, you know, well, in order for you to survive, you have to believe in Yahweh Shai's miracles, man. You got to believe that the Lord, that in all things are possible with Yahweh Shai. You got to believe that. We got to believe that. You see, on a whole nother level. Because the faith that we have now in hearing the word, the faith in the prophecies, well, guess what? That's a part of the prophecies. You see? Is the Lord's miracles. That's a part of prophecy as well. Because with the Lord's acts, you know, that's going to glorify the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahweh Shai. And that's what the Lord is all about. The Lord is all about glorifying, you know, their names. You see? So it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." You see? And you got to think about it. We haven't seen Yahweh Shai's miracles in over 2,000 years, man, which is a long time. And that's why, you know, the people nowadays kind of shun, you know, these different talking points, such as spiritual power and so forth, because the Lord's power hasn't been shown on a much larger scale since then. You see? Since the apostles, you know, after Yahweh Shai went back to the spirit world, because the apostles, you know, were, had spiritual power. You see? This Habakkuk 2 and verse 3, it says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." You see? So the vision is set, which is these prophecies. They're set to come at an appointed time. It's a time and a season for everything under the sun. You see? So we are seeing these prophecies speak and not lie. We're seeing Esau Edom set the stage up to try to snare the masses of the people into subjecting themselves and the bowing the knee to this beast system. You see? Let's read again. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. So yeah. So we see Esau setting the stage up. But guess what? As he's doing these things, fret not. Because even though this man is working on the left-hand side through Satan, to try to get the people to bow the knee, well, Yahweh Shema Shai is working on the right-hand side as well, building up his elect for these times, building up the faith of the elect so that we may endure to the end and, Lord willing, be saved out of this place, man. You see? But though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. Yeah, these prophecies are at hand. The Lord's miracles are at hand. The sooner Esau shuts this society down, the sooner the Lord can really start working on a whole nother level on the behalf of the elect, man. You see? That's why it says it will surely come, it will not tarry. So it seems like, it's taking its time. The Lord knows what he's doing. It says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, talking about Esau Edom, but the just shall live by his faith. And that's how you're going to be able to survive these times. It's going to be through faith. You see, with works as well, because faith without works is dead. You see? But the point is that faith, you got to believe in the in the unbelievable, because the masses of the people, especially 2/3 of Jake, don't believe in the Lord's miracles. They don't believe that the Lord is capable of materializing food in the midst of a famine, having an angel sent down to feed you, and give you real water, real food, not GMOs, not contaminated water, 2/3 don't believe these things are possible. You see? But the elect would live by this gift of faith that the Lord has blessed us to receive in these last days. You see? That's why, as the scriptures speak about faith being a shield, and a buckler, we're putting on the armor in these times now. You see? So when the fiery darts of Satan come down, the elect will not be penetrated. You see? Because they will be what? Fully covered, with the armor of Yahweh Shema Shai, having this truth. Really, the elect would have that tawah, that mark, as it speaks about in Ezekiel the 9th chapter, which is that exemption from judgment. That's not talking about the same mark in Revelations the 13th chapter. Those are two different marks. You see? Two different meanings, But that tawah, which would be in the heads of the elect, the minds of the elect, which would be first and foremost the names, but also having this truth, having the testimony of Yahweh Shai, which is the spirit of prophecy. And with having that, you will be what? Exempt from judgment. You see? 2 Ezra 16:21, it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. You see? So these people think, that they're in good case just because, all hell hasn't broken loose all the way as of yet, just because people can still come and go as they please, go to certain events. But it says they think themselves to be in good case. It says, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. For many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. You see? So it's going to be no form of escaping the wrath of Yahweh Shema Shai if you don't have that Tawah, It says, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. You see? This Luke 8 and verse 23. 1 second. Let me park real quick. This Luke 8 and 22, it says, now it came to pass on a certain day that he went into a ship with his disciples, and he said unto them, let us go over unto the other side of the lake. And they launched forth. And this Yahweh Shai and his disciples, it says, but as they sailed, he fell asleep, and there came down a storm of wind on the lake, and they were filled with water and were in jeopardy. You see? So Yahweh Shai went to sleep, and you had this great storm, to come to pass. And let's see what happened. It says, and they came to him and awoke him, saying, Master, Master, we perish. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. You see? So even though this storm was going on, Yahweh Shai was showing that power that the Heavenly Father has given him from the foundations of the earth. You see? So the same storm that we find ourselves in, when these evils come to pass, that's not the end all be all, man. Yahweh Shema Shai is greater than any storm, man. The Lord controls, remember, good and evil. You see? Should there be evil in the city and the Lord have not done it? You see? So the Lord is in control of all these things, man. So even though we're about to, go through, a time of testing, we're about to go through the storm. Guess what? Yahweh Shai is still here. The Lord said, I'm with you even to the ends of the earth, and the Lord has not lost none, that the Father has given him, which is his elect. You see? So it says, and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and there was a calm. So the Lord changed the whole scenery. You see? It looked at like an impossible situation, a scary situation. But the Lord was in control over all of that, man. The Lord set that scenario up to prove what? The point that you should have faith. You see? And we know that it's impossible to please the Lord without faith. It says, and he said unto them, where is your faith? You see? So even though this situation, was a rocky and scary situation, Yahweh Shai was trying to prove the point to the disciples that he was there the whole time. Remember, Yahweh Shai just went to sleep, But Yahweh Shai was well aware of what was going on, because he knew in that situation he was going to glorify the Heavenly Father in that situation, man. You see? So how much more us today? Look at that. It says working together for hunger relief. It's the spirit, So in the time of a famine, the Lord is over that famine. The Lord controls that famine, In whatever situations it might be, the Lord controls everything, man. You see? A sparrow don't fall to the ground unless Yahweh Shema Shah sanctions it. It says, and he said unto them, where is your faith? And they being afraid wondered, saying one to another, what manner of man is this? For he commandeth even the winds and water, and they obey him. You see? So the Lord controls everything, man. And the just is gonna what? Survive off of this faith, off of this belief, man. So Lord willing, that was edifying. I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Awashah, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the man who taught me this truth. Peace and blessings be to the hopeful elect, you men, women, and little ones that believe on the words of Yahweh, Bahashim Awashah. Shalom.